Okay, you've heard of colonialism, but have you ever heard of internal colonialism? That's the idea that you don't have to cross borders or oceans to colonize people. You could do it right here at home. This video is part of my series Forbidden Curriculum. I'm your professor, Dr. Esther Trujillo. We're talking about internal colonialism. Usually when people talk about colonialism, it elicits images of explorers or ships or faraway land. But internal colonialism is what happens when those same systems of domination are executed within the borders of a nation. And it's a framework that Chicano and Puerto Rican scholars started using to describe the lived experiences of communities of color in the US. So we're talking Mexican Americans in the US Southwest primarily. This is in the 60s and 70s. And also Puerto Ricans both on the island and in the continental US. Now, this is the idea that people within those areas, in those regions, were treated as if though they were part of an internal colony. Back in the 1970s, Chicano historian Rodolfo Acuña called the U.S. Southwest an occupied America. And sociologist Mario Barrera argued that Mexican Americans were politically controlled, economically exploited, and culturally dominated, just like colonized people abroad. Now, Puerto Rican thought leaders like Juan Mari Braz and Pedro Albizu Campos said the same thing about Puerto Rico. They believed Puerto Rico wasn't just a territory, but a colony. They argued that Puerto Rican people were being denied sovereignty even as the U.S. was granting them some symbolic U.S. citizenship. So what does internal colonialism mean today? Because it didn't disappear, it just looks a little different. Well, you can see it in who controls the land and who controls the means of production. Which areas are over-policed? Which areas are underfunded? Internal colonialism shows up in the ways that migrant labor is deemed essential, but then also policed. Internal colonialism shows up in the way that Puerto Ricans are taxed, but are not allowed to vote. And let me clarify, I mean vote for the US president. Internal colonialism shows up in the way that some regions, some neighborhoods, and some areas are treated like occupied zones. And that, my friends, is why people don't want this taught. Once you start to see the patterns of internal colonialism and you realize that it's not just something that's out there, over there, in Latin America, in some other place, but that it's here, in your neighborhood, in your city, in your state, right here, inside the empire itself, that's when you start asking questions. And the people in power don't like that. I'm going to keep posting about these concepts because I think knowledge is power. So let me know what other concepts you want to learn about.